There is something happening around you right now, something you cannot see, something you cannot touch, but something your spirit has already felt. You may not have words for it yet. You may have tried to ignore it, brush it off, explain it away as stress, as coincidence, as just one of those days. But deep down, in the quiet moments when everything else fades, you feel it. That subtle shift, that unexplainable tension, that sense that something is not quite right. And here is the truth that may shake you, but it will also awaken you. You are not imagining it. There is a battle unfolding around you, an invisible one. Not a battle of flesh and noise, not something that makes headlines or draws attention, but something far deeper. A spiritual movement. A silent collision between what is meant to reach you and what is trying to stop it before it ever arrives. And the reason you are feeling this now, more than ever before, is because you are standing at the edge of something significant, something life-altering, something the unseen world has already recognized, even if you haven't fully seen it yet. Have you noticed how certain things have started to feel heavier lately? Conversations that once felt normal now carry tension. Situations that used to flow easily now feel blocked. Even your thoughts, they don't move the same. There's a pause where there used to be clarity. A wait where there used to be peace. And you've been asking yourself, why now? Why is everything shifting all at once? But what if I told you this is not random? What if I told you that the moment you began stepping closer to your purpose, closer to your clarity, closer to your alignment, something noticed, something unseen, something that does not want you to move forward, something that thrives in confusion, delay, and distraction. And yet you are still here. That's not weakness. That's not luck. That is protection. Because while something unseen has been trying to interfere, something far greater has been standing between you and it. Watching, guarding, intervening in ways you cannot even begin to measure. There have been moments you should have fallen apart, but you did. Moments that could have gone completely wrong, but somehow shifted at the last second. Doors that closed not to punish you, but to redirect you. People who left not to hurt you, but to protect what you carry. You thought those were setbacks, but they were shields. And now, something is changing. The protection around you is becoming more active, more intentional, more urgent. Because what is approaching your life next cannot be allowed to collide with what has been trying to follow you. There is a separation happening, a quiet, divine filtering, and you are being positioned right in the center of it. This is the moment where many people become distracted. This is where doubt tries to creep in. This is where the noise gets louder, the confusion gets stronger, and the temptation to ignore your inner knowing becomes almost overwhelming. But you cannot afford to ignore it now. Because what you are sensing is not fear, it is awareness. You are being made aware that something you cannot see has been trying to influence your path. But at the same time, something far more powerful has already stepped in to stop it. And that presence, that force, that protection is not passive, is active, is deliberate. It is watching over you right now. And the reason this message has reached you in this exact moment is because the protection has increased. Which means one thing. Something was closer than you realize. Something you were never meant to face alone. But you did have to because you were never unprotected. This is not the time to dismiss what you feel. This is not the time to shrink back into comfort or pretend everything is normal. Because everything is not normal. Something is shifting. Something is being blocked. And something is being prepared. And you are right in the middle of it. So listen closely now. Stay present. Stay aware. because what you're about to understand next will change how you see everything that has been happening around you. You are not alone in this. You never were. Type "I am protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 717 is now activated around you. There is a presence around you that does not announce itself. It does not knock on your door. It does not reveal its face, and it does not move in ways your physical eyes can detect. Yet, it operates with precision. It studies patterns. It waits for moments of vulnerability. It looks for openings in your focus, in your emotions, in your consistency. And the unsettling truth is this: you have crossed paths with its influence more times than you realize. You may be wondering how something unseen could possibly affect something as real as your life. But consider this: not everything that impacts you is visible. The wind cannot be seen, yet it can uproot trees. A thought cannot be touched, yet it can shape your entire reality. In the same way, this unseen threat does not need to appear physically to create disruption. It works subtly, weaving itself into the background of your daily experiences, disguising itself as ordinary inconvenience, emotional fluctuation, or sudden confusion. Think back to the moments when everything seemed to be going in the right direction, and then suddenly, without warning, something shifted. Plans fell apart. Misunderstandings appeared out of nowhere. Opportunities slipped through your fingers just as you were about to reach them. You told yourself it was bad timing. You convinced yourself it was coincidence. But what if it was interference? What if something was deliberately attempting to redirect your steps without you even noticing? This unseen threat does not operate through obvious destruction. It prefers subtlety. It plants seeds of doubt where there should be confidence. It introduces hesitation where there should be movement. It amplifies small issues until they feel overwhelming, while minimizing the very things that could elevate you. Its goal is not always to stop you completely, but to slow you down just enough to delay what is meant for you. And this is where it becomes even more personal. Because this presence does not attack randomly. It responds to significance. It reacts to movement. It is drawn to those who are on the verge of growth, clarity, or breakthrough. That is why the intensity feels stronger now. That is why the patterns feel more persistent. You are not being targeted because you are weak. You are being resisted because you are progressing. There have been moments when your energy suddenly dropped for no clear reason. Moments when your motivation disappeared even though your goals remained the same. Times when your mind felt clouded, unable to focus on things that once came naturally to you. You may have blamed yourself. You may have questioned your discipline. But what if the source was not internal failure, but external pressure? This is how the unseen operates. It blurs the line between what is coming from within you and what is pressing against you. It wants you to believe that the confusion is yours, that the delay is your fault, that the struggle is your limitation. Because the moment you accept that narrative, you stop resisting it. You adapt to it. You begin to live within it. But something has shifted now. You are no longer unaware. You are no longer moving blindly through patterns you cannot explain. Awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize that something unseen has been influencing your path, you also begin to recognize that its influence is not absolute. Because here is the truth that disrupts everything it tries to do. It cannot operate freely where there is awareness and protection combined. This is why your awareness is increasing now. This is why you are starting to question things you once accepted without thought. This is why certain situations no longer sit right with you, even if you cannot fully explain why. You are beginning to see the edges of something that was once hidden. and that alone weakens its ability to affect you. But there is something even more powerful happening at the same time. While this unseen threat has been attempting to move around you, something far greater has been positioning itself between you and it. Not passively, not occasionally, but consistently, intervening in moments you did not even recognize as critical, redirecting outcomes before they could fully unfold, blocking paths that would have led you into deeper confusion or harm. You may have felt frustration when things did not go your way. You may have questioned why certain doors closed or why certain connections dissolved. But what you could not see was what those paths contained beyond that moment. What you could not see was what was being prevented. There have been conversations you were kept away from, situations you were removed from, decisions you were delayed from making, and each one carried something you were not meant to encounter. Each one was part of a larger pattern of protection that has been surrounding you long before you became aware of it. Now the awareness is catching up to the protection, and this is where everything begins to change. Because once you understand that there is both an unseen threat and an unseen protection, you stop moving the same way. You stop interpreting every obstacle as a setback. You stop blaming yourself for every disruption. You begin to discern. You begin to observe. You begin to recognize patterns not as random events, but as signals. You are not being left alone to navigate this. You are being guided through it. And what you are about to understand next will reveal why this protection has been so intentional, so precise, and so urgent in this specific season of your life. Type I see clearly in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 808 is now surrounding your path. There is a reason this protection surrounds you the way it does, and it is not random, not accidental, and certainly not given without purpose. You may have questioned your path many times. You may have looked at your life and wondered why certain things felt harder for you than for others, why you had to outgrow environments that others seemed comfortable staying in, why you were pulled away from people, places, and patterns that once felt familiar. But what you did not fully see, what you are beginning to understand now, is that you were never meant to move through life unguarded, because you were never ordinary in what you carry. Protection is not assigned without significance. It is not given without reason. It is placed where something valuable exists, where something must be preserved, where something cannot be allowed to be disrupted or lost. And that is where you stand. There is something about your life, your path, your future, that required a level of intervention beyond what you can see. That is why certain things have unfolded the way they have. That is why you have been redirected, delayed, and at times even isolated. You may have mistaken those moments as rejection. You may have felt abandoned when doors closed or when people distanced themselves. But those moments were not about loss. They were about alignment. They were about removing you from environments that could not support where you are going. They were about separating you from influences that could have interfered with what is being built in your life. You were not being pushed away from something good. You were being pulled toward something necessary. And this is where the deeper truth begins to settle in. You were chosen not because you are the strongest, but because you are responsive. You are aware in ways that others are not. You feel things others ignore. You question things others accept. You sense shifts before they fully appear. That sensitivity is not weakness. It is a form of awareness that makes you capable of recognizing what is real and what is not, what aligns and what does not. But that same sensitivity also makes you visible in ways you may not have realized. It places you in a position where your growth, your clarity, your movement forward becomes noticeable, not just to the people around you, but to forces that respond to change. And that is why protection had to be placed around you early, before you even understood why you would need it. Think about the patterns in your life. Think about the times when something should have gone wrong, but it did not. The times when you avoided situations you later realized could have caused serious consequences. The times when you felt an urge to step back, to pause, to wait, even when it did not make logical sense, and later understood that those moments protected you from something you could not yet see. That was not coincidence. That was intervention. You were not being left to figure everything out on your own. You were being guided, often quietly, often in ways that felt subtle, but always with intention. And now that intention is becoming more visible to you because you are entering a phase where awareness is required. Because here is what you need to understand. Protection increases when what you carry is about to be activated. The closer you get to clarity, to direction, to the next step that changes your trajectory, the more intentional the protection becomes. Not because you are in danger in the way you might think, but because what is ahead of you cannot be allowed to be disrupted by what is behind you. This is why certain people have been removed from your life without explanation. This is why certain plans have fallen apart even when they seemed perfect at the time. This is why you have felt moments of stillness where nothing seemed to move forward. Those were not empty moments. Those were controlled moments. Moments where something was being held back or held in place until the right timing aligned. And now you are approaching that timing. You are beginning to step into a phase where things will start to make sense in ways they did not before. Where patterns will connect. Where past experiences will reveal their purpose. Where you will begin to see not just what happened, but why it had to happen the way it did. You were chosen for protection because what you are moving toward requires you to arrive intact. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally clear. It requires you to step forward without the weight of what could have altered your path if it had been allowed to continue. And that is why you are still here, still moving, still progressing despite everything that could have stopped you. Because you were never unprotected. And you were never unseen. Type "I am chosen" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1212 is now activated over your path. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand something deeper. Every message that reaches you like this is not just for you alone. There are others still walking in confusion, still standing unprotected in awareness, still waiting for a moment like this to awaken them. When you choose to support this mission, you are not simply giving. You are helping light reach places that are still in darkness. The word declares, "Give, and it shall be given unto you," not as a suggestion, but as a living promise that moves with power. And in this moment, you may feel it stirring within you, that quiet nudge that says, "I want to be part of this." Follow that. Step into that. The PayPal link is waiting in the description, and even the QR code on your screen is not there by accident. This is your moment to sow into something eternal. Act now, and let your seed become a shield and a light for someone else. There have been signs placed along your path, subtle at first, almost easy to dismiss, but persistent enough that they never fully disappeared. You noticed them in passing. You felt them in quiet moments. You questioned them briefly, then moved on, telling yourself it was nothing, telling yourself you were overthinking, telling yourself that not everything needs meaning. But what you are beginning to realize now is that those signs were never random. They were signaled. They were indicators that something deeper was unfolding around you, something that required your awareness long before your mind was ready to accept it. You have experienced moments where your intuition spoke clearly, almost urgently, and yet you hesitated to trust it. A feeling about a person that you could not explain. A sense that something was off, even when everything appeared normal on the surface. A quiet resistance inside you when you were about to make a decision, as if something within you was asking you to pause. Those were not coincidences. Those were early warnings. But because they did not come with clear evidence or immediate proof, you pushed them aside. There were also patterns, repeating situations that felt strangely familiar, even when the details were different. You found yourself in similar conversations, similar conflicts, similar emotional cycles, wondering why the same type of challenge kept appearing in different forms. You may have thought it was just life repeating itself. But what if it was something trying to keep you within a certain boundary? What if it was something attempting to keep you operating at a level that no longer matches who you are becoming? And then there were the moments of sudden clarity, where everything seemed to make sense all at once, only for that clarity to fade just as quickly as it arrived. You may have had realizations about your direction, about your purpose, about what needed to change, and then, without warning, doubt would return. Distractions would appear. Your focus would shift, and what once felt certain would become unclear again. That is not a failure of your mind. That is interference trying to disrupt your alignment. You have also felt the emotional shifts that seemed to come without reason. Days where your energy felt drained, even though nothing physically demanding had happened. Moments where your mood changed unexpectedly, where you felt heavy, disconnected, or unsettled without a clear cause. You may have blamed stress, routine, or external pressure. But what if those moments were not entirely yours? What if they were responses to something you could not see, something pressing against your state of balance? And then there is the most overlooked sign of all, the moments where you were guided away from something without understanding why. Opportunities that seemed perfect but did not work out. Plans that fell apart at the last moment. Connections that faded without explanation. At the time, those moments may have felt frustrating. You may have questioned why things did not align the way you expected. But looking back, you can see that many of those situations would not have led you where you needed to go. They would have kept you in places that no longer serve your growth. These signs were not meant to confuse you. They were meant to prepare you. But preparation requires awareness. And awareness requires you to stop dismissing what you feel simply because it cannot be immediately proven. You are not meant to rely only on what you can see. You are meant to recognize what you sense, what you perceive, what continues to show up in ways that cannot be ignored forever. Now, something is changing in how you respond to these signs. You are no longer brushing them aside as quickly as you once did. You are beginning to pause, to observe, to question with intention rather than dismiss with doubt. And that shift is critical, because the same signs that once seemed unclear are now becoming more defined, more consistent, more direct. You are starting to see connections between past experiences and present awareness. You are beginning to understand why certain feelings kept returning, why certain situations repeated, why certain warnings appeared before specific outcomes. It is no longer just a collection of random moments. It is a pattern revealing itself. And this is where your role changes. You are no longer just experiencing these signs. You are interpreting them. You are learning to recognize what they mean, not through assumption, but through awareness. You are stepping into a level of clarity where you can no longer ignore what is being shown to you. Because the truth is, the signs have been guiding you all along. They have been pointing you away from what could harm you and toward what aligns with your path. They have been part of the protection that has surrounded you, working quietly, consistently, even when you did not fully understand their purpose. Now you do. And what you are about to uncover next will reveal how these signs are connected to something even deeper, something that has been disguising itself as normal life, but is far from it. Type "I trust the signs" in the comments if you receive this message. Lesson Code 909 is now activating clarity within you. There is a reason why so much of what you have been experiencing has felt ordinary on the surface, yet unsettling underneath. The disruption around you does not arrive in obvious forms. It does not always appear as clear conflict or visible opposition. Instead, it blends into your daily life so seamlessly that you question whether anything unusual is happening at all. This is how it remains effective. It hides within what you accept as normal, slowly shaping your environment in ways that are easy to overlook but powerful enough to influence your direction. You have encountered this more than you realize. It shows up in small delays that accumulate into missed opportunities. It appears in conversations that subtly shift your confidence, leaving you second-guessing decisions you once felt certain about. It exists in distractions that seem harmless at first but gradually pull your attention away from what truly matters. None of these moments feel significant on their own, but together they form a pattern that keeps you from moving forward with clarity. There have been days when everything seemed routine, yet nothing felt aligned. You completed tasks, engaged in conversations, followed your usual patterns, but at the end of it all, something felt off. You could not point to a specific problem, yet you felt unfulfilled, unsettled, and slightly disconnected from your own sense of purpose. That is not just fatigue. That is misalignment being introduced in ways that are difficult to identify. This is how these disguised disruptions operate. They do not try to stop you directly. They attempt to redirect your focus, to scatter your energy, to pull you into cycles that keep you busy but not progressing. You may have noticed how easily your attention can be drawn into things that do not truly matter, especially at moments when you are close to making meaningful progress. A sudden urge to delay something important. A distraction that feels urgent but leads nowhere. A conversation that drains your energy without adding any clarity. These are not random interruptions. They are carefully timed diversions. You have also experienced the emotional side of this. Moments when your confidence drops without a clear reason. Times when you begin to question your abilities, your direction, or even your worth, despite having no concrete evidence that anything is wrong. These thoughts do not always feel external. They often feel like your own voice, which is why they are so effective. But when you look closely, you can see that they do not align with who you truly are or what you know to be true about yourself. There is also the influence that comes through other people. Not always through obvious negativity, but through subtle interactions that leave you feeling uncertain or drained. Someone may speak in a way that introduces doubt. Someone may project their own limitations onto your path. Someone may unintentionally reinforce patterns that you have been trying to move beyond. These interactions do not always seem harmful in the moment, but over time, they shape how you think, how you feel, and how you act. What makes this even more difficult to recognize is that it often mimics normal life. Responsibilities, routines, social interactions, and daily challenges all provide the perfect cover. You continue moving forward, believing everything is simply part of the natural flow of life, while something beneath the surface is quietly influencing your pace and direction. But now, something is shifting within you. You are beginning to notice the difference between what is truly aligned and what only appears to be. You are starting to recognize when your energy is being pulled away from your purpose. You are becoming aware of how certain patterns repeat, how certain distractions appear at specific moments, how certain thoughts do not originate from your true sense of self. This awareness changes how these disguised disruptions affect you. What once operated unnoticed now begins to lose its influence. What once felt like your own uncertainty now reveals itself as something external pressing against your clarity. You are no longer moving through your life without questioning these patterns. You are observing them, understanding them, and separating yourself from them. And this is where the protection around you becomes even more important. Because while these subtle influences attempt to redirect you, something far stronger is working to keep you aligned. There have been moments when you were about to follow a distraction, and something within you pulled you back. Moments when you were about to make a decision that did not feel right, and something caused you to pause. Moments when you felt an unexplainable resistance toward something that later revealed itself as the wrong path. Those moments were not hesitation. They were guidance. You are not expected to navigate this perfectly. You are not required to identify every hidden influence on your own. But you are being called to remain aware, to trust what you sense, and to recognize that not everything that appears normal is meant to be accepted without question. Because what you are stepping into now requires a higher level of clarity. It requires you to see beyond the surface, to understand what is influencing your path, and to choose alignment even when distractions are present. And what you are about to understand next will reveal the force behind the protection you have been experiencing. The one that has been intervening, guiding, and standing between you and everything you were never meant to face alone. Type "I discern the truth" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1001 is now strengthening your awareness. There is a force that has been moving around you with precision, timing, and authority far beyond what you can see or fully comprehend. It is not passive. It is not distant. It is not waiting for things to unfold on their own. It has been actively intervening, stepping into moments before they reach you, shifting outcomes before they fully form, and standing in places where you were never meant to stand alone. This is not coincidence, and it is not something that happens without purpose. This is divine intervention. You have already felt its presence, even if you did not have the words for it before. There were moments when something stopped you from making a decision that seemed logical at the time. Moments when you felt an unexplainable resistance, as if something within you was saying no, even when everything around you said yes. There were times when situations collapsed unexpectedly, when plans dissolved, when people removed themselves from your life without warning. And while those moments may have felt confusing or even frustrating, they were not random disruptions. They were interruptions by design. Because intervention does not always look like protection in the way you expect. It does not always feel comforting in the moment. Sometimes it feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like delay. Sometimes it feels like things are not working out in your favor. But what you are beginning to understand now is that what did not work out for you may have been something that was never meant to reach you in the first place. There is a presence that has been stepping in before things could fully unfold against you. A presence that sees what you cannot see, that understands outcomes before they happen, that recognizes paths before you step onto them. This presence does not react after something goes wrong. It moves before it does. You have been redirected more times than you realize. Conversations you never had, decisions you postponed, places you did not go, opportunities that slipped away. Each one carried a possibility that you were never meant to encounter. And while you may have questioned those moments at the time, wondering why things did not align the way you expected, you are now beginning to see that those moments were not missed opportunities. They were avoided outcomes. This is the nature of divine intervention. It operates ahead of you. It does not wait for you to recognize danger. It removes it before it becomes visible. It blocks what cannot be allowed to interfere with your path. And it does so with a level of precision that you are only now beginning to understand. But here is where it becomes even more significant. This intervention has not been random or occasional. It has been consistent. It has been intentional. It has been increasing. Because the closer you move toward what you are meant to step into, the more necessary that intervention becomes. Not because you are incapable of handling what is ahead, but because what is ahead requires you to arrive without interference from what was behind you. There is a shift happening now in how this intervention is being experienced. Before, it was subtle, quiet, almost unnoticeable unless you looked back and connected the patterns. But now, it is becoming more direct, more immediate, more present in your awareness. You are starting to feel guided in real time, not just in reflection. You may notice this in the way your decisions are forming. A stronger sense of clarity about what feels right and what does not. A greater recognition of what aligns and what does not. A deeper trust in your own perception, even when it goes against what others expect or understand. This is not you becoming uncertain. This is you becoming aligned with the intervention that has always been there. And there is something else you need to understand about this presence. It is not only removing what should not reach you. It is also positioning you for what should. It is not only blocking paths. It is opening them, but only at the right time, in the right way, under the right conditions. This is why some things have felt delayed. Not because they were denied, but because they required alignment that had not yet been completed. There were factors you could not see, timing you could not control, outcomes that depended on more than just your immediate actions. And so, you were held back, not to limit you, but to prepare the path ahead of you. Now that preparation is nearing completion, the intervention is not just about protection anymore. It is about transition. It is about moving you from a place of uncertainty into a place of clarity, from a state of reaction into a state of awareness, from a pattern of questioning into a position of understanding. You are not being left to figure this out alone. You never were. The presence that has been intervening in your life is not stepping away. It is becoming more active, more visible in your awareness, more aligned with your movement forward. And what you are about to understand next will reveal something even deeper. The identity of what has been trying to remain hidden, the force that has been working in subtle ways around you, and why it has not been able to reach you despite everything. Type "I am guided" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 2222 is now strengthening your protection. There is something you have been trying to understand, something that has remained just out of reach no matter how closely you look. You have sensed it in fragments, felt it in moments, caught glimpses of it in patterns that did not quite make sense. Yet every time you tried to define it, it slipped away, blending back into the background of your life as if it were never there. This is what makes it difficult to confront. It does not present itself clearly. It does not stand in front of you in a form you can easily recognize. It operates through layers, through subtle influence, through indirect pressure. This is why you have struggled to identify it. Because it is not always a person, not always a situation, not always something you can point to and say, "This is the cause." It moves through multiple channels. It can appear through circumstances, through emotions, through thoughts that feel like your own but carry a different tone. It can even move through familiar environments, making it harder to separate what is natural from what is not. You have asked yourself questions without clear answers. Why did that situation unfold the way it did? Why did that person suddenly change? Why did something that once felt right begin to feel wrong without explanation? These questions were not without reason. They were responses to something that hath been influencing your surroundings in ways that are not immediately visible. The hidden enemy does not rely on force. It relies on confusion. It creates situations where nothing is clearly defined, where everything can be explained away as coincidence or misunderstanding. It thrives in ambiguity, in moments where you doubt your own perception, where you hesitate to trust what you feel because you cannot prove it. And in that hesitation, it gains space to operate. There have been times when you sensed that something was off, but you could not justify that feeling. You may have convinced yourself to ignore it, to move forward as if everything was normal. But that feeling did not come from nowhere. It was your awareness picking up on something that your mind had not yet processed. This is how it maintains its position. By keeping you uncertain. By making you question your own clarity. By creating a gap between what you feel and what you allow yourself to believe. And as long as that gap exists, it continues to move unnoticed. But something has changed now. That gap is closing. You are no longer dismissing what you sense as quickly as you once did. You are starting to pay attention to the inconsistencies, the subtle shifts, the moments that do not align with what appears on the surface. You are beginning to trust your awareness, even when it challenges your previous assumptions. This is where the hidden enemy begins to lose its advantage. Because its strength was never in its power. It was in your lack of awareness of its presence. It depended on you moving through your life without questioning certain patterns, without examining certain influences, without recognizing that something was shaping your environment from behind the scenes. Now that awareness is increasing, its ability to remain hidden is decreasing. You may begin to notice things more clearly. Patterns that once seemed unrelated will start to connect. Behaviors that once seemed harmless will reveal a deeper impact. Situations that once confused you will begin to make sense when viewed from a different perspective. This is not coincidence. This is clarity emerging. And with clarity comes a shift in how you respond. You will no longer engage with everything the same way. You will not react to every situation as if it requires your attention. You will not allow every influence to affect your state of mind. You will begin to filter what enters your focus, what you give energy to, what you allow to shape your decisions. This is not about becoming guarded in fear. It is about becoming aware with intention. Because once you recognize that not everything around you is neutral, you also recognize that you have the ability to choose what you align with. You are not required to absorb every emotion, every opinion, every situation that crosses your path. You can step back. You can observe. You can decide. And this is where the protection that surrounds you becomes even more effective. Because protection works best when it is combined with awareness. When you begin to see what is being kept away from you, you also begin to understand why certain things were blocked, why certain paths were closed, why certain people were removed. It was not random. It was intentional. You were being kept from something you could not yet identify. Now you are beginning to see it. And what you are about to understand next will reveal how to break the patterns that allowed it to operate in the first place, ensuring that what has been hidden does not return in a different form. Type "I see the truth" now in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 3030 is now strengthening your discernment. There is a pattern that has followed you longer than you may have realized. It has not always appeared in the same form, and that is why it hath been difficult to recognize. It changes its shape. It adapts to your growth. It presents itself through different people, different situations, different emotions, yet carries the same core effect: delay, confusion, and redirection away from what truly aligns with you. And for a long time, it has repeated because it was never fully understood. You have felt this repetition, that quiet frustration when something begins to feel familiar, even though you have moved forward in your life. That realization that certain outcomes seem to circle back, no matter how much effort you put into doing things differently. You may have blamed timing. You may have blamed circumstances. You may have even blamed yourself, wondering why you keep encountering similar challenges. But what you are beginning to understand now is that repetition is not random. It is a cycle, and cycles do not break on their own. They continue until something shifts at the level of awareness and response. They continue until you see what is actually happening, not just on the surface, but beneath it. Because what repeats is not always the situation itself. It is the underlying pattern that connects those situations. There have been moments where you sensed that you were about to step into something different, something that would finally move you beyond what you have experienced before. And yet, just before that shift could fully take place, something pulled you back. A distraction appeared. A doubt entered your mind. A situation arose that required your attention and redirected your focus. And before you realized it, you were back in a familiar state, wondering how it happened again. This is how cycles maintain themselves. They do not confront you directly. They redirect you at critical moments. They interfere just enough to prevent completion, just enough to keep the pattern active without making it obvious. But something is different now. You are no longer moving through this cycle without awareness. You are recognizing the moments where the pattern tries to re-enter your life. You are noticing the timing of distractions, the emergence of doubt, the subtle pull toward what you have already outgrown. And this recognition is the point where the cycle begins to lose its hold. Because once you see the pattern, you are no longer operating inside it unconsciously. You are stepping outside of it. And from that position, you have a choice. You can respond differently. You can pause where you once reacted. You can question where you once accepted. You can step back where you once moved forward without awareness. And in doing so, you interrupt the pattern. You prevent it from completing its usual sequence. You stop it from repeating in the same way. This is not about force. It is not about trying to fight every situation or control every outcome. It is about clarity. It is about recognizing what aligns with your path and what attempts to pull you away from it. It is about maintaining your awareness in moments where it matters most. And this is where the protection around you becomes even more aligned with your actions. Because protection alone can block what you cannot see. But when protection is combined with awareness and conscious response, it does more than block. It transforms your path. It ensures that what once repeated no longer has a place to return. You are reaching a point where the cycle cannot continue in the same way. Not because it has disappeared on its own, but because you are no longer engaging with it the same way. You are no longer feeding it with unconscious reactions. You are no longer allowing it to guide your decisions without question. You are no longer moving through it without recognizing its presence. And this is what breaks it. There may still be moments where it attempts to reappear, situations that look similar, emotions that feel familiar, but now you will see them for what they are. You will recognize the pattern before it fully forms, and in that moment, you will have the ability to choose differently. That choice is the turning point. That choice is where repetition ends and progression begins. And what you are about to understand next will reveal how your awareness is not only breaking cycles but activating a level of authority within you that will change how you move forward from this point on. Type "I break the cycle" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 5151 is now sealing your breakthrough. As you stand in this moment of breaking cycles, understand this truth. Every cycle you break becomes a doorway for someone else to walk through. There are souls still trapped in patterns they cannot see, still waiting for light to reach them. still searching for a message that awakens them the way this one has awakened you. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description or the QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a platform. You are planting seeds into lives that are ready for transformation. The word speaks, those who sow in tears shall reap in joy, and right now, your act becomes a harvest of clarity for someone else. If you feel that stirring within you, that pull to act, that is not random. It is your moment of alignment. Step into it without delay. Release your seed and let it multiply in ways you may never fully see, but heaven will always record. There is a shift happening within you that goes beyond awareness. It is not just that you are beginning to see more clearly or recognize patterns that once went unnoticed. It is something deeper, something more foundational. It is the activation of a level of authority that has always been present within you, but has remained dormant until now. And the reason it is activating in this moment is because you have reached a point where awareness alone is no longer enough. You are being called to operate differently. For a long time, you have moved through situations reacting to what appeared in front of you. You responded to circumstances as they unfolded, adjusting, adapting, trying to understand what was happening as it happened. And while that allowed you to navigate many challenges, it also kept you in a position where you were always responding after the fact. But now, that position is changing. You are no longer being positioned as someone who simply reacts. You are being positioned as someone who recognizes, decides, and directs. This is what authority looks like when it begins to activate. It does not arrive loudly. It does not force itself into your actions. It emerges through clarity. It shows itself in the way you begin to trust your own perception without needing constant validation. It becomes visible in the way you no longer feel the need to engage with everything that once demanded your attention. You begin to choose your responses with intention rather than reacting out of habit. You may have already noticed this shift. Situations that once would have pulled you in emotionally now feel different. You observe them, but you do not absorb them in the same way. Conversations that once caused you to second-guess yourself now have less impact. You hear them, but you are not moved by them as easily. Decisions that once felt uncertain now come with a stronger sense of direction, even if you cannot fully explain why. This is not detachment. This is alignment. You are aligning with a level of understanding that allows you to move with intention rather than reaction. And as this alignment strengthens, your authority becomes more evident, not just to you, but to everything around you. Because authority is not only internal, it influences your environment. When your authority activates, you begin to shift how situations respond to you. You begin to notice that certain patterns no longer have the same effect. Distractions lose their pull. Doubt loses its intensity. Situations that once repeated begin to dissolve before they fully form. This is not because those influences have disappeared completely. It is because they no longer find the same access within you. You are no longer operating at the level where they could easily influence your direction. And this is where the connection between awareness, protection, and authority becomes clear. Awareness allowed you to recognize what was happening. Protection kept you from being overwhelmed by it. But authority is what allows you to move beyond it. Authority is what ensures that what once affected you does not continue to define your path. You are stepping into a phase where your decisions carry more weight. Not because you are forcing outcomes, but because you are aligned with a clearer understanding of what belongs in your path and what does not. You are no longer negotiating with uncertainty. You are no longer allowing confusion to guide your actions. You are choosing with clarity. This does not mean that everything will suddenly become simple or without challenge, but it does mean that you will not approach challenges the same way. You will not be pulled into every situation that presents itself. You will not be influenced by every voice that speaks. You will not allow every thought to shape your direction. You will choose. And that choice is where your authority is most visible. There will be moments where you feel the difference clearly. Moments where you recognize that you are no longer the same person who once responded in certain ways. Moments where you see a situation unfolding and immediately know how to approach it without hesitation. Moments where you feel a sense of control, not over everything around you, but over how you engage with it. This is not something being given to you for the first time. It is something that is being uncovered. It has always been there, waiting for the moment when you would recognize it, trust it, and operate from it. That moment is now. And what you are about to understand next will reveal how this authority is not only changing how you move, but also how everything around you begins to shift in response to it. Type "I walk in authority" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 7777 is now activating your inner strength. There comes a moment in every process where everything that has been building quietly beneath the surface begins to move at once. It does not always arrive with noise or announcement. In fact, it often begins in silence. But its impact is undeniable. You begin to notice that things are no longer unfolding the way they used to. The same patterns do not hold. The same delays do not repeat. The same confusion does not linger. Something has changed, and that change is not external alone. It is internal first, and then it begins to reflect outward into your reality. This is the moment you are stepping into now. You have moved through awareness. You have recognized the patterns, the hidden influences, the cycles that once repeated without explanation. You have felt the protection around you, even when you did not fully understand it. You have begun to operate from a place of authority, choosing differently, responding with intention instead of reaction. And now, all of that begins to converge into a shift that cannot be reversed. And first, it may feel subtle. You may notice that your thoughts are clearer, more direct, less clouded by hesitation. Decisions that once required long periods of overthinking now come with a sense of certainty. You no longer feel pulled in multiple directions. You know what aligns, and you know what does not. This clarity is not something you are forcing. It is something that is settling into place. Then you begin to notice changes in your external environment. Situations that once seemed complicated start to simplify. What felt blocked begins to open, sometimes in ways you did not expect. You may find that things start aligning without the same level of struggle you experienced before. This does not mean everything becomes effortless, but it does mean that resistance is no longer constant. There is a difference between effort and resistance. Effort is movement towards something. Resistance is what pushes against that movement. And what you are experiencing now is a reduction in resistance. The unseen force that once interfered with your path no longer has the same level of access. The patterns that once delayed you no longer complete themselves in the same way. The cycle has been interrupted, and now the path ahead is clear. You may also notice a shift in how people respond to you. Not because they have changed entirely, but because you have. The way you carry yourself, the way you communicate, the way you choose when to engage and when to step back, it all creates a different dynamic. Situations that once escalated may now resolve more quickly or not arise at all. Interactions that once drained your energy may no longer affect you in the same way. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. When you operate from clarity and authority, your environment adjusts. Not everything changes at once, but enough shifts to create a new direction. You begin to move forward instead of feeling like you are constantly being pulled back. There will still be moments that test this shift. Situations may arise that resemble past patterns, as if to see whether you will respond the same way you once did. But now, those moments feel different. You recognize them immediately. You see the pattern before it fully forms. And instead of reacting, you choose differently. And choice reinforces the shift. It confirms that you are no longer operating from the same place. This is where everything begins to accelerate. Because once a shift is established, movement follows. You may find that opportunities begin to appear more clearly. Not all at once, but in ways that feel aligned with your direction. You may notice that your focus sharpens, allowing you to act on things you once delayed. You may feel a sense of momentum returning, but this time without the confusion that previously accompanied it. It is important to understand that this shift is not temporary. It is not something that will disappear as quickly as it arrived. It is the result of everything you have moved through up to this point. It is the outcome of awareness, protection, and authority coming together in a way that creates stability. You are no longer moving through uncertainty in the same way. You are moving forward with understanding. And as this shift continues to unfold, you will begin to see that what once felt distant or unclear is now within reach, not because it suddenly appeared, but because you are now in a position to recognize and receive it. This is the moment where everything changes. Not all at once, not in a way that overwhelms you, but in a way that steadily moves you into alignment with what has been waiting for you. And what you are about to understand next will show you exactly what must be done to maintain this shift, to protect it, and to ensure that what has begun now continues to unfold in the direction you are meant to move. Type "I step into the shift" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9090 is now activating momentum in your life. You have reached a point where understanding alone is no longer enough. Everything that has been revealed to you, every pattern, every shift, every moment of clarity, has led to this exact space in time where action becomes necessary. Not rush action, not reactive movement, but intentional, grounded, aware action. Because once awareness and authority activate within you, there comes a responsibility to move in alignment with what you now know. This is where many people hesitate. They recognize the shift, they feel the difference, but they remain in the same patterns out of familiarity. They return to old habits, old responses, old ways of thinking, not because they are unaware, but because change requires consistency. And consistency requires decision. You cannot afford to move the same way you did before this moment. There are things in your life right now that no longer align with who you are becoming. You have already felt it. Certain conversations feel unnecessary. Certain environments feel draining. Certain routines feel disconnected from your purpose. You may have tried to ignore this, telling yourself that everything can remain the same while you change internally. But that is not how alignment works. Alignment requires adjustment. It requires you to begin separating yourself from what no longer supports your direction. This does not always mean dramatic changes or immediate disconnection from everything familiar. It means awareness in how you engage. It means choosing where your energy goes. It means recognizing when something is pulling you back into patterns you have already outgrown, and making a conscious decision not to follow it. You must begin with your focus. Your attention is one of the most powerful aspects of your movement forward. Where you place it determines what grows in your life. If your focus remains scattered, if it continues to be pulled into distractions, into unnecessary concerns, into situations that do not contribute to your clarity, then your progress will remain inconsistent. But when your focus becomes intentional, When you direct it toward what aligns with your path, everything begins to stabilize. You also need to observe your responses. You have already seen how cycles repeat through unconscious reactions. Now you have the ability to interrupt that. When something familiar appears, when a situation begins to unfold in a way that resembles the past, pause. Do not react immediately. Allow yourself the space to see what is happening before you decide how to respond. This pause is where your authority operates. This is where you choose differently. There will also be moments where you feel resistance, not from external forces alone, but from within your own habits. The urge to return to what is comfortable, even if it is not aligned. The tendency to question your clarity when it challenges what you are used to. This is normal, but it is also where your commitment is tested. You must remain steady. Consistency does not mean perfection. It means returning to alignment each time you recognize that you have drifted. It means not allowing one moment of uncertainty to pull you back into an entire pattern. It means continuing forward even when the path feels unfamiliar, because unfamiliar does not mean wrong. It often means new. You also need to protect your clarity. Not everything requires your engagement. Not every conversation deserves your energy. Not every situation needs your response. You are allowed to step back. You are allowed to observe without involving yourself. You are allowed to maintain your position without explaining it to everyone around you. This is not withdrawal. This is preservation. Because what is forming in your life right now requires stability. It requires you to hold your position, to remain aligned, to not be easily moved by external influence. The protection around you is active, but it works most effectively when you are aligned with it. When you move with awareness, when you choose with intention, when you maintain your clarity, you reinforce that protection. And this is where your movement becomes different from before. You are no longer trying to figure everything out as you go. You are no longer reacting to every shift in your environment. You are moving with understanding, with awareness, with a clear sense of direction that is not easily shaken. This is what you must do right now. Stay aware. Stay aligned. Stay intentional. Because what comes next depends on how you hold this position. And the final part of this message will reveal the last layer of what has been protecting you, what has been kept from you, and what is now being sealed as you move forward. Type I stay aligned in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 1111 is now stabilizing your path. You have come to the end of this message, but not to the end of what is unfolding around you. In fact, this is not an ending at all. It is a sealing. A moment where everything that has been revealed, everything you have felt, everything you now understand, is being anchored into your awareness so that it does not fade, so that it does not become something you forget when life resumes its pace. Because here is the truth you must carry forward. The protection around you has never been temporary. It has been constant, deliberate, and precise. And now, it is being sealed at a higher level because of what you have become aware of. Awareness changes your position. It shifts you from being someone who is protected without knowing to someone who is protected and aligned with that protection. But with that alignment comes a final warning. You cannot return to the version of yourself that ignored the signs. You cannot move forward while pretending you have not seen what you now see. The patterns have been revealed. The cycles have been broken. The hidden influences have been exposed. And the authority within you hath been activated. This means that your path from this point forward will respond to your awareness. If you remain aligned, everything that has been set in motion will continue to unfold in your favor. The protection will remain active. The clarity will remain stable. The direction will remain steady. But if you begin to dismiss what you have learned, if you begin to ignore your awareness, if you begin to fall back into unconscious patterns, you create openings that were once closed. This is not about fear. It is about responsibility. You are no longer moving blindly. You are moving with understanding. And that understanding is what keeps you aligned with what has been protecting you. There will be moments ahead where you are tested, not in a way that is meant to harm you, but in a way that confirms your position. Situations may appear that resemble what you have already moved beyond. Conversations may arise that attempt to pull you back into old responses. Thoughts may surface that challenge your clarity. But now, those moments will feel different. You will recognize them immediately. You will see them for what they are. And in that moment, you will have a choice. Not a complicated choice, not a confusing one, but a clear one. To remain aligned, or to step back into what you have already outgrown. And this is where the seal becomes important. Because what is being placed over your path right now is not just protection. It is confirmation. Confirmation that you are not alone in your movement forward. Confirmation that what has been guiding you is still present. Confirmation that what has been blocked will remain blocked. As long as you remain aligned. You may not see the seal, but you will feel it. You will feel it in the way your clarity remains steady even when situations change. You will feel it in the way your decisions come with certainty instead of hesitation. You will feel it in the way certain things no longer have access to your energy the way they once did. This is not something you need to force. It is something you need to maintain. And maintaining it requires only one thing: consistency and awareness. You do not need to control everything around you. You do not need to anticipate every possible situation. You do not need to protect yourself through effort alone. You simply need to remain aligned with what you now know. Because what you know now is enough. You know how to recognize what aligns and what does not. You know how to pause instead of react. You know how to step back instead of being pulled in. You know how to trust what you sense, even when it challenges what appears on the surface. And that is what keeps the protection active. That is what keeps the path clear. That is what ensures that what you are moving toward is not interrupted by what you have already left behind. This is the final layer. Not something added to you, but something confirmed within you. You are protected. You are guided. You are aligned. And nothing that was never meant to reach you will be allowed to pass through what has now been sealed. So move forward without hesitation. Move forward without doubt. Move forward knowing that what stands with you is stronger than anything that ever stood against you. Type "I am fully protected" in the comments if you receive this message. Blessing code 9999 is now sealed over your life. As this final seal settles over your spirit, understand this sacred truth. What has reached you today was never meant to stop with you. There are countless souls still walking in unseen battles, still waiting for light to break through their confusion, still searching for a voice that carries truth like this. When you sow into this mission through the PayPal link in the description, with a QR code on your screen, you are not giving to a channel. You are releasing seeds into a divine harvest. The word declares, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." And right now, your act becomes a ripple that reaches lives you may never see, but heaven will always record. If you feel that call within you, that urgency to act, that is your moment of obedience aligning with purpose. Do not delay it. Step forward, release your seed, and let your giving become a light that guides someone else out of darkness.